All right. Hey, Darren.
Hi, Amy. How are you?
Good. I know today we were hoping to talk about those surveys we did. We sent out two surveys to 1,500 CheckLink drivers. The first one was about sharing what a truck stop and travel center employees or companies had done for them on the road, and things that they had really appreciated. And it came back in three buckets. It was food, cleanliness, and overall service. I think we'll talk about food with the second survey, but I want to talk about cleanliness. Do you think that is something we're going to continue to hear?
I do. You know what's really gratifying is right at the beginning of the pandemic, we were out, visiting with member locations, and I did a particular run up and down I-10. I visited about 15 travel centers, and what was really, really amazing was how clean those stores were.
Right.
A lot of them were already clean prior to COVID-19, but how much they had stepped up their game. And as we've been speaking in the past, I think this is an expectation that's been set now. And it was gratifying to hear our end users, our core customer, our important professional drivers reference emphatically how clean the stores were and how much they appreciated it. And again, I think that's the future. We said on a couple of other occasions that if you don't have really clean stores, if you go back to where you were before, I think your sales will suffer. The professional drivers, again, clearly stated cleanliness. When they roll up, they notice how more clean the pumps were, how the pads were cleaner, how clean the restrooms were, the counters, how less cluttered the stores were. And that all speaks to safety and security via cleanliness.
Absolutely. The other one that was on there was just overall service. Like the answers were saying how, they just felt like warmed and welcomed. And I don't know about you, but that made me really happy to hear, because I think we have some really great members. What can you have any recommendations for members, how they can continue to offer that?
Yeah, so first I'd like to say I agree with you. I mean, the professional truck driver appreciates professional responses back to him or her from our stores. And
Totally.
you mentioned, our stores, our industry is just really a wonderful, kind industry that bends over backwards for people on the interstate of all types, truck drivers and
Yeah.
regular customers. And it showed during COVID-19. And then again, it was reconfirmed during these surveys how much they appreciate it. I would say that, again, whatever you have started as an action plan as part of your COVID-19 response to your customers, we referenced cleanliness just a few minutes ago. Now it's service. I just don't think you can go backwards. I think you're setting yourself up potentially for failure and problems down the road with your customer base if you go backwards. And what I mean by that is, members are just, again, doing all sorts of amazing things, whether it be curbside checkout or walking out to the drivers to see if they need any additional help, or even car customers are bringing food to them, as we said on previous occasions, or investing in technology to make the shopping experience even better for both truck drivers and car customers. I just don't think you can go back on that. And so my strong recommendation would be to look at the things you put in place, you as the store operator,
Right.
and identify what's really making a difference. What has really made a difference for your core customers? What are they appreciating? You could do simple surveys, just like what we did, right?
Right.
I think what I'm really proud of what we've done is we didn't ask a leading question. It was one simple question. What do you appreciate of what your members, the truck stops you stop at have done? And you've gotten some really great, amazing answers, actionable stuff.
Yeah.
So I would say I guess that's it. Figure out what you're doing, what you've done differently, then analyze it. Is it working? And then maybe survey the drivers to support whether or not that really has made a difference. And then I would continue those. I certainly wouldn't go backwards on any of those things.
Awesome. So as I was saying, the second question was, after the price of fuel, how do you choose where you're going to stop? And the overwhelming answer was food, which I'm sure it's not a surprise to you. What food options do you recommend for people, given what's going on in the world, and given that answer of food is the reason for stopping?
Yeah, that's so true. I think as we've written about this, and you and I have talked about this to our members when we've visited stores, and we've had some articles as I've referenced, and I think maybe even a blog or two, a video blog, but I'd first start with what are the core products that every customer would like to eat, because you're going to get a sampling of different customers, throughout the U.S. And then I think the second piece is, what is the demographic type that visits your store?
Right.
And I think that's going to become very, very, very important. And it can be challenging for larger organizations to do that. But I do think, especially for independent operators or regional players that have figured out a niche in food, I think they're going to have a distinct advantage. And so what I mean by this specifically is, let's say that you look at your sales data, and that hot dogs, burritos, and breakfast sandwiches are your best selling items across the board in your hot grab and go food program. And I think from that data, that information, you then can make it more specific for your customer. So if you have a lot of day part customers that are coming in that are landscapers, plumbers, painters, and things such as that. And if that customer is a Hispanic customer, for example, you should be looking at to have some additional products that will speak to that particular customer.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you live in an area where you have a lot of elderly folks that come in the morning, they grab a breakfast sandwich, a coffee. Maybe that's a large percentage of your demographic, besides what you get off the interstate, obviously. And then can you go to speaking to a product line that visits with that type of customer, or matches that type of customer? I know that sounds challenging, but I don't really think that it's as hard as it seems.
Okay.
If you do some observations. We've talked about this all the time. A lot of people spend a lot of money on technology and analyzing everything. A lot of times, especially if you're a single store operator or you have a handful of stores, go to your store and really make true observations, not guilted observations or slighted observations. What I mean by that is where you've got an opinion already of what it is, but really who is shopping, your store. Do you have people that are looking to buy breakfast sandwiches at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock in the afternoon? As we've said before, McDonald's has proved that you could sell breakfast all day long. A lot of our members don't do that, right? They don't really understand their demographic, and they'll say, "Oh, I only make breakfast sandwiches from 6 in the morning to 8 o'clock in the morning." Well, what about all those other folks after 8 that may want a breakfast sandwich? What about all those customers prior to 6 o'clock that may want a breakfast sandwich? So I think, again, especially if you're a single store operator, understand who your demographic is. Right? Why are you trying to sell hamburgers and hot dogs if the vast majority of your customers that are coming in are vegetarians?
Right. I know that you always recommend knowing who your customer is, and I know you've talked about a few ways of doing that. One example would be just having someone stand outside with a survey with some simple questions on it. Can you talk about some of the ways you recommend people understand their customers better?
Sure. So let's say, for example, let's stick on food. You decide to run a robust hot food program, grab and go hot food program, and you put in pizza, chicken, hamburgers, and hot dogs, and you roll the program out. You've done your due diligence. You've got the proper signage. Food is really quite good. You roll this program out, and then all of a sudden, it's not successful.
Yeah.
It's not meeting, doing the return on investment that you expected, or anything like that. So my question or my challenge to everybody is, have you made sure that's your customer? So think about it. If I come to you and say, in most cases, "Hey, would you eat a hamburger?" Most people say, "Sure," if they're asked that, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's the truth, right? So maybe a better question is, we're not selling anything. Are you, maybe the survey question is, are you vegetarian? Oh, or maybe the question is, would you wait in line for food to be prepared? Let's say you've created a made-to-go order program.
Right.
I think you can ask those types of questions prior to getting into a food service program of any kind, or even products. Again, when I've seen surveys that a lot of our members done, and these are even some of our sophisticated members, larger members, a lot of times the questions are leading questions.
Okay.
let's say they're building a new store, they're coming into our industry, they're from the C-store world. They'll say, if we put in, would you like us to have a lounge? Yes. Would you like us to have a TV room? Yes. Just for examples.
Yeah.
And then they build it and they're like, there's not a single person in these things, but yet our survey said that. Well, I think that's a leading question, that you're asking someone, and more than likely they're just going to agree with you and say yes, versus what would you like to see, and leave it as that. What's important? Why is it important to stop here? What kind of food would you like us to have?
Yeah.
And then the other last piece on the food thing on the survey is, ask if speed is important to the customers, right? So everybody likes a sit-down meal. All of us, you, me, JJ, John, Bernadette, we all like to sit down. That doesn't necessarily mean we'll do that if we're traveling. We might like a sit-down restaurant,
Right.
but the reality is if we're traveling, we will never truly do that because we don't have the time.
Right.
So again, through surveys, what's really important to you, right? Is speed more important, or is a sit-down restaurant for you? So what you might find is there's an ability to do the best of both worlds, right? We have some operators that make to-go home meals, and they talk about having great success. Meatloaf, not your traditional types of stuff you'd get out of a grab-and-go food program. Meatloaf or lasagna and those types of things. And those can offer the best of both worlds.
Mindy was just saying, I think Chick-fil-A is even offering family meals to go now.
I wouldn't doubt it. I had heard from one of our members that's got a McDonald's that McDonald's is doing like baskets of French fries now, and increasing the order size so people can take it home. So.
Okay. Speaking of taking it home, what do you think of delivery and curbside? I know, of course, people are doing that now. Do you think that's a good investment for the future?
I do. Yes, I do. Simply to answer that question, I think it's a wise thing to do.
Okay.
Curbside, pickup, ordering, and get an app because that's the future. Additionally, I do think it's worth investing in looking at how do you get food out to the fueling areas. As you know, I've been a long time proponent of, I still am surprised that no one has put a Sonic style ordering system in a travel center. There was a member that was planning on doing it, and then he had sold his business, so that they never went through it. Right. But his idea was to put an ordering system for professional drivers. Their time has become tougher and tougher. Pre-COVID-19, strict rules, hard to get through cities because of the infrastructure problems, massive amounts of traffic, and then, again, the rules for driving, the number of hours they can drive, electronic logbooks. So if that's your core customer, we're always thinking about how we fuel them faster, but how do we feed them faster as well? How do we make that experience better? I would certainly invest and look at that. So
I know you always say you see drivers who are getting Uber Eats or DoorDash. Yeah,
that's a great point. When we do reviews, and we've done, I know we're getting close to 100 reviews now over the last 10 years. Mm-hmm. That's always a surprise to everybody. I usually bring it up and say, hey, because when we do a review, we also go there at nighttime 2 or 3 nights in a row, depending how long they want us to stay in the store. And we look for that stuff. Then, as I've referenced, I'm digging through the trash, which is, I'm sure drivers are like, what the heck is that homeless guy back there doing, digging through our trash? But I'm always, I'll find a couple things and take a picture or two, or for fun, if it's not nasty, I'll bring it in to the office. And then when we're doing the walkthrough, I'll say, hey, I love your PF Chang's, or I'll love your Payway, or whatever it may be.
Right.
We don't have that. I said, well, you do. Someone's buying it in the back. And again, it's just that thought of there's no way that a driver would use Uber Eats or Grubhub. Of course they would, right? Absolutely. If we're doing it, why wouldn't they do it?
Yeah, and considering food was the overwhelming response to the survey, they want the good food.
Yeah.
Okay.
One other thing, just real quickly, a little bit off topic of food, that I was really surprised by the second survey, reasons for stopping, is 20% of the respondents said checklink. And of course that makes sense, right? They're owner operators. They are owner operators, and that's who we're obviously talking to, checklink drivers. But
Yeah.
I found that really, really interesting. I wasn't expecting to hear anyone mention checklink. So I thought that was really kind of cool that it is still important for them.
The other thing on there that I was surprised to see was showers, since I guess you just don't hear as much about showers. Did it
Yeah.
did it surprise you?
Yes and no. I didn't really think we would hear showers, but when I heard it, I wasn't surprised because, again, it's that core independent truck driver, right?
Right.
And a lot of them, for the independent driver, showers are really, really important.
Okay.
And we know that when we're at stores, often fleet drivers never reference showers. They're often referencing food, speed, those types of things.
Uh-huh.
And while, of course, the independent operators reference it as well, showers are important to them. So I do think, again, that's important. As you know, we've given guidance to folks that are building travel centers, again, to really understand, do a proper feasibility study, understand the freight, different types of freight that's coming through your location, because that will make a difference. If you have a lot of owner operators, in general, you'll want to have showers. If you don't have as many, maybe you don't need to have as many showers. And
Okay.
again, that all depends on the owner, the travel center owner, he or she, what they want to do. But at least you should be considering those things.
Okay. Was there anything else in the survey that you thought was worth noting?
I'm just going to hammer that home about the cleanliness piece.
Yeah.
That was just unbelievably amazing how it was noticeable. And again, I think we've talked about this, when I've been out and about, I've noticed how clean the squeegees are. And again, someone may push back and say, well, that's BS because there's not as many car customers. Well, that might be true, but the squeegees are cleaner in the
Yeah.
diesel bay. The diesel bays are cleaner. The trash cans are cleaner. The handles are cleaner. When you walk into the store, it's cleaner. There's less trash in front. There's a big focus on making people feel welcome, again, and also secure in the decision to stop there. And again, the drivers overwhelmingly reference that as the thing they appreciated the most.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Darren.
Thanks, Amy. Take care.